What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, aka the Geek from DFS Army. I got Taco here with me, and we're talking the NASCAR Auto Club Pala Casino 500. 400. 500, Taco, or 400?
500. So the
500.
same as last week.
Same as last week.
No, it's
Pala Club,
400.
the Auto Club, 500. I think I wrote 400 in the title to this, so
It's 400.
it is 400.
Yes.
So why does this shit say 500 and the other one says 400?
I don't know.
No, you messed me up. Anyway, 400. DraftKings Fanduel breakdown for the race. Let's get the research station going here. And right off the bat, Taco, tell me about this track. Give me the overalls and how's it play differently? Because it's super different from Daytona last week.
Well, there's a way it typically goes, but this is not a typical week for the track. I guess we'll get into that. But historically, typically with this track, we go here very early in the year. It's part of the West Coast swing because, a lot of the tracks are too cold, too snowy to be raced at right now. Well, didn't stop it from raining and snowing in California where it's like 40 some degrees there. So very bizarre week, but usually they have qualifying. Usually they have multiple practices here. No track time at all for these guys, which is going to be, it's going to make it weird as hell because this is usually a place where practice times are very telling, qualifying especially. The top 5 starters here just crush with the fantasy points. This is a very unusual race, and we've only raced here once in the last 3 years at this point because they didn't race here in 2021. They raced here in 2022, but that was another unusual race because it was the first race with the next gen car. There's the part shortages. There's just the uncertainty, a lot of problems, a lot of tires going down, a lot of people not being able to handle the car properly, a lot of cautions, which is something we typically don't see here. Usually this is one of the lowest carnage races of the season because, like we said, it's a 2-mile track, but unlike Daytona, no pack racing here. They're going to be spreading wide open. You can go 5 wide here, and it's fine off some of these restarts. Has a preferred groove up at the top, of course, so it is a bit hard to pass the leader, and we typically always see a 100-plus lap main dominator, usually with just one secondary dominator. That's been the constant trend, at least in the last-gen car. But last year is a little different because the dominator racked out. A few leaders racked out, actually. It's very uncertain where this is usually one of the easiest races to cap because it's just wide open. Fast cars are going to easily walk around the slow cars. There's almost no reason to play a crappy car here where a Daytona, Cody Ware's in the nuts. Here, if you play Cody Ware, you might actually be the worst DFS player of all time.
So to clarify, because a lot of people are new and had first tried their NASCAR even last week for Daytona. So we need to clear the mind, flush out everything you learned last week and start from scratch. Last week we were able to play a bunch of shitters from the back of the pack who actually wound up winning. By the way, the breakdown from last week was fucking spot on, right? Talked about playing the shitters, the cars in the back that nobody likes. It nailed it. It was crazy.
But it almost didn't because at the end is just when everything happened. But that's how Daytona goes.
That's what Daytona is, right?
But the difference is Daytona went about as you'd expect it.
Yes.
It has predictable levels of carnage and uncertainty. This is a very different kind of race because usually it is not snowing in California. I don't know if you know much about California. Not much snow going on there.
Never been.
There's always practice and qualifying a huge part of this race. We've always had that. 0 laps on the track this week. Well, 1 caution lap, the dumbest caution lap ever in the Xfinity race. That's the entirety of what we've seen on the track. And even in that 1 caution lap, we had a DNF. Someone couldn't get their car running. That kind of crap is going to happen, where a problem that would easily be fixed in practice is going to happen at the race to someone. It's going to be some bullshit. And there's a competition caution as well. So that on top of just the guys starting at the front, pretty much being based on where you finished at Daytona, which there's no actual correlation there. It's just who survived at Daytona. We have Cody Ware starting 30 spots ahead of Tyler Reddick because why not? So it's just we're dealing with that kind of uncertainty this week. It's just completely different than last week.
One of the extra challenges. So, when the research station, we're going to get to it. It's going to bear this out, but basically the shitters are going to be laps behind on this one, is what you're saying. So, if you don't have a quality vehicle, you are not going to keep up with the pace. So, unlike Daytona, where the kind of mediocre and the bad cars, they don't actually fall behind because so many cautions.
Can block.
It squeezes
cannot
them.
block here. There's no. You cannot block this wide of a track. There's no chance.
Yeah, no, and in the past, practice is this car's really fast. We've known which ones are looking good going into the track. This one we have no clue because there was no practice, no qualifying, and they used the qualifying from effectively the Daytona finishing positions, which has caused the scenario where a ton of the best drivers are starting in the waybacks to the point where, like, effectively, there's so much place differential available that I see the winner being place diff plus like that 100-lap leader, whoever the hell that is, and that's going to be a supreme guess.
And that could be one of the place diff guys, because literally the two best cars here last year are starting 34th and 35th. Yeah. It's that kind of race.
It's a disaster from that point of view. But I was trying to figure out, like, how do you even guess who the real dominator is going to be without having seen any practice?
It's unprecedented. So
yeah, I think the way to go is just get a little bit of exposure. As I was making lineups earlier, I was just kind of like, I'll play a little bit of Kyle Busch, maybe he'll do it. Play a little bit of Bell, maybe he'll do it, and just kind of running through those real quick. So without further ado, let's take a look at the research station here, and this kind of breaks everything down for us. Win odds, top 3, all that good stuff, and it looks like Kyle Larson here is your odds-on favorite to win. He's really good at this track type. What can we glean, though, from here? Let's go to actually historical DK average per start thing and sort of bear out what we were just talking about. Although, again,
so you can kind of scrap the starting positions because there's no qualifying. I'd almost go off of the averages by season average driver rating just to get a sense of how, the faster cars do. Like 110 through like 90, those top 3 segments there are going to be your typical top tier good cars. And you can see, like, you really don't want to be playing a lot of the shitters in the back. They just score significantly worse, and they rarely ever break 30 fantasy points. So, yeah, even the mid-range play is very limited upside. All the upside is coming from your top-tier drivers.
Of which there are more of them than usual.
Yeah.
The last couple of years. So there's just a lot to choose from. Back in the day, Taco, this type of race, before the whole Reddick and the young guns came out, it'd be like, all right, we're going to play Truex, Harvick, Busch, or Logano, Keselowski. It'd be like six names that were potential dominators.
But they're all starting in the front. If you look at the upper right table there, you can see which of the studs or people with 90-plus season-long driver rating, like the good drivers, started 30th or worse. There's a grand total of 3 ever since 2013. So there's more good drivers starting in the rear of this race than in like the last like 10 races combined.
How long does it take in this track? Let's say, Chase Elliott starting 35th. How long does it take for him to make his way to the front? Is this like,
it's kind of hard to answer that because we haven't really seen that like at all at this track. I would imagine not very long because it's gonna take like 1 second for him to pass Cody Ware, because he can just go to the left, to the right. There's so many options. A lot of the ground is going to be made on the restarts, and they'll settle out after a while. But, the competition cautions and higher than usual expected cautions, I think it's 6.5 if you go off. I think it's like 6 expected cautions if you go off the Vegas lines and remove the comp cautions and the stage cautions. But really 9 overall if you include those cautions, which is a lot more than the usual 2, 3, 4 cautions we'd see here. So I'd say after like 1 stage, people should be about settled out, maybe 2.
So we don't even have to worry that intensely about some of these play stiff guys like never making,
Yeah, you only have to worry about them just not having speed, really.
Yeah, so if they're fast, they're going to basically the cream should rise to the top here.
Mm-hmm.
Is like that's the overarching.
You can't be a bad driver and block here. It's kind of the huge difference between this week and last week.
Yeah, sucks for a lot of these guys. So, all right, with that being said, any other tabs that we want to take a look at here on the research station before we kind of get into the driver by driver?
Not really, I guess. Should just go into the driver by driver here.
All right, so I'm going to go to the main. I'm going to the main sheet and just kind of work off of this. We'll talk a little starting position. We'll talk a little bit of track history and whatnot, and just driver skill. But
if you look at the large intermediate track finishes, I just put in all the intermediate tracks he went to last year. The ones to kind of pay attention to are Michigan and Pocono in the middle of the season, because those are the other like large ovals. They're just kind of horsepower wide open tracks, and then of course Auto Club. But that's just this track's history, and that was also kind of a weird race. But Michigan, especially, is the most similar to this track historically. It's just some things to keep in mind.
Kevin Harvick won a race last year. What the
Sure
hell?
did.
Damn.
He actually wins a lot of this style of track.
Note again, though, as we go down in salary level. So if we need another sort of kick in the ass about not playing the shitters. As you go down in salary level, look how much red.
The only time these crappers performed well is at Texas, which was a fucking nightmare. Where like the pole sitter blew a tire like 8 times, so you almost scrapped that race.
Yeah, no, that's not going to work.
But yeah, no. If you play Cody Ware today, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, they're listening to this, so they're not going to do that. But we'll get into it. So let's start at the top. Kyle Larson's known as a driver that is really good at. So this race, you said the high
groove is the best tier. So this definitely lends itself to the likes of Larson, Reddick. There's even like an angle where like good dirt drivers tend to do well here because it's very, very slippery. It's an abrasive track surface. And we've kind of seen those guys do pretty well here historically. So maybe that could lend some points to guys like Larson, maybe even a Bell here. But yeah, this track is just perfectly suited for him. He got most of his wins early on in his career with Chip Ganassi Racing at this style of track. Just the large ovals that are more about horsepower than anything.
Yeah, no, he's done. But then again, I remember loading up on Kyle Larson last year for this track, and it didn't work out.
It did work out. He won.
Oh, it did work out?
He won, literally. But yeah, it was a fucked race. He didn't really dominate. Tyler Reddick dominated, but the dominator ended up not even mattering.
Just came up winning at the end. Yeah, because I have a memory of it, but
yeah, just kind of like survived through this race. But for the most part, I mean, he's the one clear favorite. Everyone else is very close in odds. He's the one clear favorite. It makes a lot of sense here.
Okay.
Both Kyles would be the ones that stick out particularly as like good at this track. But Larson, he's pretty good in uncertain conditions. As where Kyle Busch, you take practice away from him, he gets kind of shitty.
That has been the case with Kyle Busch. So Larson's starting 15th. Mm-hmm. I think he falls in a little bit of a weird zone.
He started in this, I think, right around this position last year as well.
It's a perfectly good. There's plenty of place diff in place there, and if it wasn't for the fact that some studs are starting 35th and 33rd and whatever,
yeah, you'd be the chalk. It wasn't for that if it was normal.
So I think all these guys, he needs to dominate, right? If he's going to, he needs to win. He needs to win at the very minimum, or dominate for a while and finish in the top 5 in order to get there. 25% projected ownership. So Larson's obviously going to be a pretty good play. I forgot to mention, by the way, dominators. Everybody's asking about dominators and how to set up the domination station. How many dominators to use? So what is your take on dominators for this race? So we've got, let me go to the dom station, and I'm going to sort this by starting position here.
Well, I mean, considering that you could, like, guys like Kyle Busch or Reddick could easily dominate this race from the rear, even like someone like Truex or Larson. I say no rules this week. 0 rules for me. Because I don't think there's any reason to constrain and like force in someone from the top 10 when there are this many terrific place differential plays. Just makes no sense.
Well, let me ask you this question, because my one reasoning would be this: number 1, ownership, but number 2, I don't think you're going to get these guys unless you force some exposure. I would use like
mid exposure if anything, or I would honestly, instead of just using the hard rule, I would like put these guys in a group and say in a certain amount of lineups force one of these guys, but not all of them. I think that would be the right move.
I mean, you could,
but setting a hard, like constraining it to force a top 10 guy in, I do not think that's a move this week.
What about just generally? How about this? So I have a thought. What about using, and definitely, yes, I would do 3 uniques for this.
I mean, you could throw like Truex, Larson, Hamlin in there and doing at least one, that'd probably be fine.
Wait, I have a thought. What if I did at most 1? Right. And then
I don't
And
think
then
that
I
would
did
really
some
matter
forced
all that
mins
much.
on the ones that so here's the problem with the Dominators. To me, Stenhouse is probably an unfriend you.
Yeah.
Busher might be an unfriend you. Dinger might be that.
They're mostly all unfriends here, honestly.
I mean, I think you could play some of these guys and like we don't know. What if Suarez has a fast car and he dominates? I don't know.
Like
I mean,
Ware
it's hard.
LaJoy,
Yeah, I'm playing Chastain. I'm not gonna not play Chastain.
Honestly, Harvick, I'm unfriending him on DraftKings and only playing him on Fanduel. If you're playing both sides,
That's fair. I mean, you can unfriend Cody Ware. We're gonna unfriend Colo as much as I love him.
Yeah.
It's
already way more unfriends than usual. Like JJ Elliott would also be a super unfriend.
I don't even see him. Where the hell?
22nd.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I didn't get
zero chance.
Yeah, no, we're gonna unfriend him too. But
just a lot of unfriends this week. Yeah.
But you won't get any of all I'm saying is you won't get any of these drivers unless you force it. So like, let's say you want a little bit of Alex Bowman just in case, right? He's not a crap driver. You have to force him in on him. You got to run him. You got to force it. He's not going to show up. You got to force it. 5%.
Yeah.
So, keep that in mind. Like if Joey Logano probably not going to show up in your run unless you force it. Christopher Bell definitely not showing up unless you force it. So I might force a little bit of Bell. You got an ownership projection and you got to look at that and go, hey, do I want to be above or below? But you want to force a little bit of exposure here if you want to try to, like, if Bowman's going to be 7% owned and he randomly is leading the race, it could totally happen. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it.
It's happened before.
It's happened. Yeah, he could be the guy getting to. I'm not saying I think he will be, but he could be. And no one will roster this guy. He's going to be unowned.
Yeah.
So you have to force it. Suarez, can you not see the race? And just randomly, it's fucking Suarez doing great. Like, okay.
You just got to make sure you don't spread yourself too thin, kind of like, spreading it all around to these guys, I mean, you got to make some stands.
Well, I think the way you
unfriend some guys and pray. But I see what you're saying.
You could go heavy on, I can make that work because I'm able to go super heavy on Eric Jones, on Tyler Reddick, on Byron. Like this group, you can go really heavy on the good drivers, Austin Dillon, cheap. Ryan Preece, if you need to save some money. Well, I want to talk about him. So, all right. Anyway, effectively, Taco, your call is no rules, but
because even in at most one, I could see two guys from the top 10 just dominating the race. Because whoever those guys are, whoever they may be, you're gonna need them. I could easily see like Bell leading the early part and Blaney leading the second half or something like that, or even like Bell and Logano.
Yeah, something random.
I don't really like forcing any kind of rules at all. At least like hard rules. I'd maybe do like the limited, at least one in like a certain percentage of lineups.
You can use the if to make those kind of rules where you do it for
player combination rules.
Yeah, use the player combination rules right there to create those kind of rules, or just don't do anything. My one fear is, but it doesn't really work that way. Is like if I try to force 5% Bell and 5% Logano, I don't really want those to happen with Bell and Logano together. It's kind of like, all right.
Yeah, you almost have to make kind of like a shitter rule. So I see what you mean.
Yeah, just because you're doing it via force min, I wouldn't want it to force both of them in the same lineup because at that point it kind of kills the point.
But I could see Bell and Logano, that's the only problem I have. I could definitely see like a few of these guys starting up front.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like say Bell, for example, he could just like block for a while and just kind of be there. Or even like Logano and Blaney, like Penske is a good
Bell
day. I'm not saying I expect that, but it is definitely a possibility. That's why I'm just not really messing with too many rules this week.
Bell could absolutely lead this race from the start and just hold on to it for a while. Like that's not out of the realm of shit that could happen. And it is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. He's got a chance of doing that. So all right, let's go through these drivers and see who's kind of good at this. I rarely play like Denny Hamlin in this type of track.
Hamlin is like he's another guy that I'm only playing on FanDuel because he's like great at finishing the race, finishing top 10. If you look all of the recent races here, he's pretty hard stuck between 5th and 10th. That's where he chills. Of course, he'd always been kind of second fiddle to his teammate Kyle Busch, just doing everything here at this track. Well, he's just coasting, looking for a decent finish. It's kind of what I expect out of him, and at this price, it's kind of hard to play him a whole lot. So, again, FanDuel only for me. But on DraftKings, I don't know if he can really get it done. Doesn't get a lot of like fast laps. He would have to be just that dominator guy, and he hasn't dominated at this track since like 2015, 2014, something like that. Like he's just kind of been a bit pedestrian.
Yeah, and that's just that defines Denny Hamlin. What's the ownership percentage here? 18%, starting 13th. Yeah, again, he's like a 5. He's a guy you want to squeeze in there a little bit, but not too much. He does not stand out to me because Chase Elliott is here and he's starting 33rd, same price as Denny Hamlin. Starting 33rd, pushed all the way to the back. Pretty much a lock, but his win odds are second
You would
best.
think he's a lock, but the problem is he's just so similar to guys like thousands of dollars cheaper than him. Like the difference between him and like Reddick or Eric Jones isn't really all that different.
You cannot lock button that. Actually, I started handcrafting lineups, and what ends up happening is
you end up having to give up on Elliott and say, "Oh, what's the difference between him and Reddick anyway?"
Or Byron.
Yeah.
Right. So effectively, Chase Elliott. So let me. I'm going to emphasize this point. Chase Elliott, even though he's starting 33rd, pretty much needs to dominate the race for some number of laps or finish in first, second, third.
Or just have a decent race and hope that like Reddick and Byron don't have good finishes.
Something there like that. He's competing with Reddick and Byron. So, Reddick for 1,500 cheaper, starting a couple spots back. If Reddick finishes in 4th and Chase Elliott finishes in 5th, and they both have this good race, it's going to be Reddick. And same thing with
it could just be them together as well, but yeah.
I mean, you could squeeze them all in there, but the point is Willie Byron, Austin Dillon, a lot of these cheaper guys, and especially Eric Jones and Chase Briscoe, all the way down here in the 7K range, like they have the same kind of outlook as what Chase, and it just matters who dominates. Like Chase, Reddick, Byron have the same outlook as pretty much Jones and Briscoe in my mind. That's kind of how I was playing it, and even Austin Dillon. So it's like, all right, there are 7 play stiff guys here.
So I think Brady is pretty bullish on Elliott as well. I was just kind of bearish on him because I think he really tends to get off to like slower starts this season and only really shows up at like Martinsville early on. And last year is really, really just kind of gnarly looking at intermediate tracks. He was not good at intermediate tracks. He was good at literally every other track type. Like the last 5 on the season, he didn't even crack the top 10. He's just kind of an invisible man. And, kind of like Hamlin, he plays second fiddle to Larson here typically. Not like the most insane results. I mean, I could see him pushing for like a 10th place finish. That's probably where I'd put him. And I don't think that gets the job done over even someone like Austin Dillon, who I expect a very similar result from, who's like 3K cheaper.
He needs to basically finish top 3 or top 5. Like he needs to be in the top 5 or you're probably not winning with him, because when you spend that money, you're basically forced to use a shitter. And that's how the cadence of it worked out for me. Like you spend that 10-5, that removes one of these really kind of good 7K guys, and you kind of got to go down to a Ty Gibbs or a Killer Priest or one of these guys who are a little less good. They're a little less good. So anyway, getting back to it here, you're watching the DFS Army NASCAR breakdown. If you like what you're seeing, make sure like the channel, subscribe. And my man Todd Live for Sundays mentioned the 5-pick NBA. It wasn't just Sniper's 5 picks, by the way, yesterday that went 5 for 5 on Prize Picks. Will Lynn, who's out there giving out plays all day in DFS Army Discord, same thing. He went 5 for 5. We had a guy put 200 up, a $5,000 winner on a $200 bet. So if you haven't checked out the Prize Picks room in our Discord, make sure you're checking that out. They're going nonstop. It's really easy because they're giving out the plays. You just you do these 5 and 6 flex plays. They're awesome. I know, Taka,
I'll give one.
Suck being in Indiana.
I'll give one Prize Pick play that I know of. I was looking at it. Kevin Harvick, fade him in DFS and just play him under 13.5 finishing position on Prize Picks. There you go.
I love
That's
it.
Your pick.
Little Prize Picks action, even though it sucks to suck being in Indiana with no Prize Picks. All right, so let's continue on here. So we talked a little bit about Chase Elliott starting 33rd, expensive. Of course, the outlook is good, but don't lock button him. Basically, normally I would lock button Chase Elliott.
If he was the only one, it makes a lot of sense. But I don't know, like
too many of them.
I don't think he's going to go super chalk either, because I do think his ownership is going to kind of drift down as people make lineups.
People are going to want to play Chase. Kyle Busch starting 21st. He's in weird man's land, strange zone.
He's the best here at this track. Like historically, he's fucking awesome at Auto Club. Problem is there's no practice, which is, I mean, it's been shown time and time again. You take practice away from Kyle Busch, there's almost like a mental thing or what, but he just doesn't do well. Everything else on paper for him is incredible here. Starting 21st, that's great. Best track history here. He's in the car that literally dominated this race last year. The only thing that's not to love about Kyle Busch is the fact that there's no practice. So it just depends on how hard you want to play that angle. That and maybe, potentially switching teams or something, some growing pains. I don't really believe that all that much. I mean, those are the only things that could paint Kyle Busch in a negative light here. Other than that, it's just like it looks like a super good play.
I think it's funny. The ownership is reflecting it, though. You're not getting a bargain. He's 33% projected owned.
He's always chalk here. Everyone knows he's so good here.
Good play. Good play, Kyle Busch. Again, every time you spend 10K, understand these must be dominators. So, I can almost
Kyle Busch is way more likely to dominate than Elliott, like way more.
Yeah,
but he's always running like second, third, first at these races typically.
He needs to dominate at that price. Think about like in MMA yesterday where Tatiana Suarez was a lock button to win and score well, but it was like, yeah, but you're not going to win. She needs to absolutely like score massive. Same thing
these
here.
Lead laps are just like the strikes for y'all.
It's so different from Daytona. I want to emphasize it because a lot of our guys have not played NASCAR before this week. Dominator points. If you don't have the dominator, all right, another point to emphasize. Hold on. I'm going to use
go back to the historical tab and just show it.
No, I'm just going to say it in a really serious way. If you don't have the dominator in this race, you will not win any money.
With one small qualifier being, in case last year happens again, the dominator wrecks out. Happening.
All right. These cars are worked out. That is not what's going to happen. They're not going to have like mechanical issues all over the place. Somebody's going to dominate. If you don't have them, so you get these play stiff guys, they score 60. The dominator will score 90 or 85, like so many more points than everybody else.
Actually,
yeah, he's going to score massive. That is how this race differs. The dominator is going to put up a massive number. You're like, what? I don't know. He got a 110. How the fuck? He got a 90, and everybody else is getting 60s and 50s. Like you don't have that one driver.
Just click on the historical tab, and you can see.
Yeah. Like, oh, here we go. Yeah, like. Why is it always showing me Denny Hamlin? What is happening?
I may have had it filtered to Hamlin. Right. I was checking him out.
You're messing with me here.
Give him a little look over.
I'm on view only. I can't even mess with it. You have to.
I got you. My bad.
That's all right. That's all right. So we'll jump back to the other.
King.
Oh, there it is. So yeah.
Look at that.
150. There's your scores. This is what I meant. 115, 111. You don't have the guy that scores 70, 100. You're out. You're done.
So you can see there, Joey Logano starting 35th. He scored 74 by posting a top 5 finish. Only led one lap. That's kind of what you're expecting out of these guys like Tyler Reddick, and that will definitely put you in the nuts.
Look at these laps led numbers, 135. But by the way, the guy was talking about napping during NASCAR. This is what happens. Like, Kyle Busch is just leading for 134 laps. Nothing's going on. Take a little nap. You wake up, exactly the same thing is going on the screen.
The one position you can block at in this track is first. Everything else kind of,
But that one fast car, you're gonna know. This is like a Brady live betting.
This is how you know it's a low carnage race typically, because it's these long green flag runs of like the guy that qualified up high, the fastest car, just leading everything.
Brady, if you're out there, this is the live bet race. Like Brady's going to be like, yeah, all right.
The problem is I think the books are very scared. We don't even get top 10 odds on DraftKings. Like they are not posting many lines, and the lines they have put out are very juiced up because there's just uncertainty in the air with the rain and all that. And the books don't really want to risk anything this week.
So weak. All right, guys, remember, smash the like button if you're watching this. Do us a favor. We're trying to build up the YouTube video channel. We've got more and more video coming. The daily prize picks videos we've got coming out every single day now. I just worked out a PGA podcast, Taco.
Nice.
Going back. DFS up north, Monday nights. Just working that out. We got a lot of stuff going on here on the channel, so make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want those notifications when we go live with these videos. And of course, check out DFS Army if you want access to all this good stuff, all of our tools, the domination station, and you want to start winning and be in the community and the whole deal. DFSArmy.com, promo code Geek, 10% off. Actually, promo code Taco, 10% off.
Nice.
Supports the show. All right. Continuing on. Ryan Blaney, another one, nondescript, starting spot, starting ninth.
He's on the right team. So if you look at Joey Logano's track history here, you look at Keselowski's track history here, not including last year, of course, but Penske, top 5 just machines here. Blaney's not gotten the finishes here at this track, but I mean, he typically runs around that. His whole thing is like he always finishes worse than where he runs in races.
I really feel
we saw that all last year.
Taco, the more we talk through this, the more I think I need to put these guys in a group and at most one. I'm feeling this. Ryan Blaney, there shouldn't be in there with Logano. Like it's in at most one. Blaney starting
I just kind of hope that it doesn't. There isn't just 2 dominators from the top 10, which it probably isn't going to happen. You just got to kind of bank on that not happening.
How do we figure out the dominators? Normally, there's a practice caps lock, and we see which cars are fast. And which
especially at this track. Some tracks not so much. Like last week at Daytona, practice did not matter. This track practice matters a whole lot, but we're missing that part of the equation. So
we're effectively the way that this track is working out as we're going through this, the way this thing is working out is we're able to figure out all the side pieces, and then you just got to figure. So you load up on the play stiff, and then you mix in the different potential dominators to hope that you accidentally land on the right guy. I don't want to fucking sugarcoat this, Taco. We're going to accidentally land on the right guy. If it's Chastain and he leads the 100, it's Chastain. If it's Blaney, it's fucking Blaney. That's the part that is mysterious.
Yeah, the part that from all these guys like 20-1 or better are your dominator options. It's pretty much it. Maybe with a handful of exceptions, but yeah.
This is the group right here. All right, in highlight. So you look at this group and you say one of these is probably going to dominate this race. From there, I'm going to fill it out with all of these high mean projection drivers that we know are going to score well if they finish. The Austin Dillons, the Eric Joneses of the world. And that's how you're going to win this one. But as far as how to figure out who the dominators, if we knew, this is not a race where I don't think you could predict it outside of saying it's going to be 1 or 2 of these highlighted drivers. So that's the approach that I'm going to take when I'm building.
Be the case for Mr. Ross Chastain here, who, bad history here. Granted, a lot of it in poor equipment, but like he just ran terribly here, along with his teammate Suarez last year. But it took him a few races for Trackhouse to get going. Once they started getting going, there wasn't really any looking back.
Chastain was the man last year.
Yes, sir. So he's going to be one of the lower owned plays up top. Just not seeing any buzz surrounding him whatsoever. This is Trackhouse's worst track type by far, at least going off of last season's data. But, in a week like this where we don't exactly know who's fast off the truck until we see him on the track, he's the lowest projected of these dominator plays, and that's probably where his value stems from. You're going to have to set a min on him, or I would just put him into like single entry contests. I think that's definitely what I'd be looking to do with him this week. He's just like a really nice contrarian GPP play.
I love Chastain here. Well, track type. I say track type my ass. Every driver can drive this. It just depends on what kind of equipment you have. And Chastain was great the second half of last year. He was borderline like the best driver last year in the second half. And now he's forgotten. Okay. All right. You do that. I'm going to force some from Chastain for sure. All right, continuing on, Joey Logano. Again, I never played Joey Logano. He's starting third. This is another one.
This has Fanduel written all over it. Logano, he's chilling, just top 5. And that's what he's going to do in this track. That's what he does every single time. He's going to chill top 5.
I'm shocked at how high you have him projected owned, Taco. 16% is surprising for me.
No, everyone knows Penske's good here.
I guess, man. I don't know. He could lead. He needs to lead. Basically,
he's like a top early dominator option too. Because I don't think a lot of people believe in Bell like that. But Logano, it makes so much sense for him to do well here.
He's basically dominate or bust. I want to be very clear on what you're getting with Joey Logano. If he does not,
I don't think he'll even bust. He'll just like have an all right score. He'll just do his thing.
No nuts. Top 5. Dominate or not in the nuts. Let's call it that. Like, I don't care that he finishes 5th. If he finishes in 5th place.
Which is why I'm saying he's such a better FanDuel play, because on FanDuel, that absolutely works.
That's right. Actually, yeah. My brain is so
Yeah, it's very DraftKings oriented because DraftKings is
oriented,
objectively better, but I've just made a ton of FanDuel lineups because I think cross-hedging the slate is the way to go with a lot of these plays. Because these guys like Logano and guys that are Harvick especially, like guys that are just gonna finish well but do not like fast laps, do not like really dominating like that. They're so much better on FanDuel.
Do you think Logano, because of all the crapola drivers starting in the top 5 or 6 or 7, really, do you think Logano can just kind of take it from Bell early?
I think he's a top option to win stage 1. I didn't see the stage props out yet. I was looking for that, and I was looking for the expected number of lead lap finishing drivers, but they don't have those yet, sadly. I really wanted to see the stage props because I'm sure that Logano would be right there with Bell as like favorite to win stage 1.
I'm going to tell you right now, Taco, I'm just looking at these ownerships. I'm going to be under on a lot of these guys starting up front because I truly feel that only one of them is going to be in the nuts. And
they're not here because of speed. That's something important. Like people default to playing the pole sitter. Like I'm not even really against Bell. So I really wanted to. I came into the week wanting to leverage against Bell because of like his track history here is nothing but wrecks. But like with him starting first, I think people are going to inherently over-own him because he's starting first. And usually that matters. This week it's literally just because of where he finished at Daytona. So like these starting positions are not really they're not based on merit. That's why I like fading the pole sitters. I mean, it's just like COVID season all over again. When there was no practice or anything, we'd be fading the pole sitters because usually they got there off of just a completely different type of track.
But I want to point out also that Christopher Bell generally not a bad play on this kind of a track. So like he's fine and he's a good driver. He's like as good as he's effectively a stud.
Yep, but I mean the main thing that makes me not want to play him is that competition caution lap 20,
or the fact that Logano could just pass him on lap 3,
like or the fact that lap 2 or lap 1 someone's car is not going to work or something.
Taco, even the 15% is too high. Yeah, here we go. Everybody's talking about. But yeah, even the 14% is too high. You don't want more than one of these guys. You don't want more than one of these guys because it's dominate or death. You're not going to win with 2. Logano and Bell.
I can't agree with that because they could. I could see Logano and Bell being the 1-2 dominators. If you don't have them, you're dead. It's not outside of the world of possibility.
That is a long,
especially at a track like this.
I mean, you're just taking a long odds shot, but I don't want to much. Like that is that shot that I'll take the L on. Yeah, here it is, man. By the way, everybody's talking about just crushing on price, but I love that. See that in the chat. That's awesome, guys. All right, Martin Truex Jr. So I want to point out, Martin Truex Jr. is very much a Brady play this week.
Brady's all over this play. It's a nice little leverage play.
My favorite play in terms of leverage. MTJ could easily dominate this race. I think people are still down on him from last year. I think we'll see a major resurgence here. So I don't know. Brady's got the gut feels going for MTJ. You feeling that, Taco?
So last year he didn't really dominate at all this track type. He was very much 5th through 9th, like every race. He dominated the absolute shit out of this race back in 2018, 2017, 2016, those years. Granted, he was dominating everything.
I was still in high school back at that time.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Those packages were more based on low downforce. The next gen car is stress on low downforce after some years of high downforce. So I guess that's a bit of a case for Truex here. He also might just be, I mean, he's cheap for one.
He's not that cheap.
Yeah, but like 9,300 for Truex is pretty cheap.
He's not giving you the play stiff tingles though, right? Starting 14th, it's in a weird starting spot.
He could potentially be very low owned in some contests, and I think Brady mainly likes him for leverage, and I agree he's a good leverage spot.
You got him at 20%. I don't agree. I think this ownership is too high
on DraftKings. Yeah, he does get a lot of like consistent fast laps and stuff.
I don't believe he's going to be 20%.
He has like really high historical like lead laps and stuff here because when I say dominate, like he absolutely dominated the crap out of this race.
We can't go back to 2016, 17, 18.
I think we can.
It's too long ago.
Well, I mean, so this week we have to go off of historical stuff more than an average week because we don't really have much to go off of because this race was a bit of a clusterfuck last year. And it's also a track type that we don't go to very often. It's not like intermediate tracks where we've been, or like just standard 1.5 miles where we've been to quite a few of them. Like these are dying out. We don't even go to Indianapolis anymore. This is the last time we're going to Auto Club.
And this
it's
is
going to
2
be just
miles.
Pocono. It's just going to be Pocono and Michigan after this. So this is kind of a rare track type.
The quirk here, guys, is this is a 2-mile track, right? So most of the time when you watch NASCAR, it's 1.5. And so when you go to 2, those straightaways are a little bit longer. Car goes a little faster.
That's just raw horsepower at these tracks.
Yeah, the raw horsepower. That's the right wording, right?
Mm-hmm.
Car goes a little faster. So whoever's got the most badass car today has a real advantage. It comes through. You see it. They just ride to the front. I'm telling you, this is exactly like the kind of race where, we're watching it and Brady's in the middle of the race. Like, dude, this guy's fast. You want to bet him at plus 3,000 in our Discord. Like, he'll be spitting out plays like that and it will win. We've seen it before. He's like, Reddick's going,
Truex has
all that shit out.
He has a tendency to unload fast sometimes. If you get that here, he could be the 100+ lap leader for sure. He has about as good of a chance as anyone else in this range.
It could totally be
he's cheaper and not like the highest owned.
I'm treating him like a dominator in the sense that I don't want a ton of him and these other starting high guys. But I think it's going to happen natural anyway in your lineups because the way the Dom station is set up, these guys like Tyler Reddick, and we're getting into it right here. So Tyler Reddick
is another thing that makes Truex a decent play. He's surrounded by hand builders are not going to pick Truex at all. They're going to go right to Reddick and Byron here. 100%.
You have to because it's a better play. But Truex, if he dominates, will outscore these guys. So let's talk about Reddick and Byron. This is Reddick's best track type. Number 1, he rides the wall. That's his thing.
Yeah, he has a 24th place finish here last year. If you're just looking at finishing position, it's like, oh, that's not very good. But I mean, remember, he dominated the absolute shit out of this race. He was the best car, hands down. And he got taken out by a bullshit, randomly bad tire. So no fault of his own. Yeah, I treat him like a top kind of option here. And the switch to Toyota is, a net neutral move for him. Starting 35th, there's really not a lot. There's not a lot to hate about him. I mean, he doesn't finish a lot of races. He's a little bit risky in that sense. But starting 35th, he's gonna just pass so many guys so quickly, and also he's just one of the best outside groove runners in all of NASCAR. He's kind of cut from the same cloth as Larson, and so at a track like this, definitely love some Reddick. Just gonna wall ride.
Chalk. Taco, this is as chalky as it gets.
This is what we call terrific chalk.
Yeah, great chalk, but this is so the way I'm gonna approach this race. I'm gonna let you know right now. I'm fucking loading up on Tyler Reddick. I'm loading up on this chalk. I'm gonna load up on Byron. I'm gonna load up on Jones and Briscoe. I am embracing.
Yeah.
That's how I'm gonna do it because when I do that, when I load up on these guys who I know if they kind of finish and kind of wind up around the top 10 range, you just have to find that 1 or 2 dominators. That's how I can.
And if they're from that range of guys starting in the rear, then no rules needed.
Can you play MTJ? Yes, I think you could play MTJ and Reddick together.
Oh, certainly.
Yes, definitely. Because MTJ is starting 15th, but Reddick isn't put him in every lineup guy. You could play him with everyone.
You could play Truex, Reddick, Byron, and then Dylan or something, and just go like a mid-range lineup is so much better.
But
a full-on mid-range lineup is so good. As we're usually at these intermediate tracks, the mid-range is a dead zone. That's what makes this so unique.
And you just catch the dominator and you win the race. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Willie Byron, same shit as Reddick pretty much.
So he's a lower upside version of Reddick for sure. Very pedestrian at these intermediate tracks last season. Just at this track, he's hard stuck 15th. He wrecked out early last year. He was going to finish 15th. That's just what you got to expect out of him. So his upside is not as good as Reddick, but he's a little cheaper and he'll be lower owned.
A little less owned.
And that's pretty much what we're going off of.
Bubba Wallace starting 18th. Also kind of starting in no man's land a little bit here. Mm-hmm. What do you think about him? 23XI, same team as Reddick.
Yeah, so Brady actually likes Bubba a bit more than I do. I think, there's so many plays you got to play. You gotta fade a few guys. He's just one of the guys I'm going to end up fading here. Not huge on him with the track type, really. He did finish runner-up at Michigan, so there is a case for him. I think runner-up at Indianapolis a few years ago as well. I just don't have the room for him because I'm just going to want to play guys like Reddick and Byron over him. But in single entry or something, I could definitely see a case for him as a pivot directly off of these guys, kind of for the same reason that Truex should be a little bit of a pivot. just because they're right next to these super top guys.
Your finger's naturally going to press Reddick. It's going to press Byron, or you're going to go down. I've already been handcrafting, and you could see it in the ownership. Bubba coming in at 14%, but also I really don't like his win odds at all. One thing I look at when I'm looking at these, breaking these down, is like, all right, how do the odds makers see this guy, and they don't like him at all. He's 5
This is about where you'd expect to find him usually, because he's not like the absolute top tier of driver. He's like that. He's like that B+ tier.
Let me explain how to read this.
We've been talking about A tier guys for a while.
Let me explain how to read this real quick. So, just not everybody knows, Taco. You look at these numbers and you've created them, and you're like, I know everybody knows how to use this. Not everybody knows how to use this. So this is the DFS Army research station for NASCAR that we're looking at on screen here. And what you can see here is Bubba Wallace's win odds 31-1. So $100 pays $3,100. Great. He's 5-1 to finish in the top 5. Okay, 100 pays 500. Great. But more importantly, you look at the drivers around him and you say, oh wow, Reddick is 13-1. Byron is 13-1 to win. Even Harvick and Bowman, these other drivers that are cheaper or the same price have significantly better, not just win odds, but top 5 odds. And I can even go all the way down to Eric Jones for a full 1,000 less and get the exact same win odds and top 5 odds as I can get from Bubba Wallace. So on paper, Bubba Wallace, not a very good play for the price, but who cares if he happens to fall? So you just control your exposures there. But that's what these numbers mean. And right next to it, you have the implied win, the implied percentages for the same outcome. So 2%.
Yeah, I was looking at the percentages. I'm really bummed there is no top 10 this week on DraftKings, but I get it, whatever. But yeah, 13% chance to finish top 5. That's probably like his optimal chance as well. Maybe I could see him finishing top 5 not being quite optimal if he doesn't like lead any laps or anything, but it's a decent range to expect.
This is a great, you just nailed something. Like you kind of think for these guys starting a little bit higher up, they pretty much need a top 5 to have any kind of shot or massive domination along the way. And if you look at these top 5 win odds, like that's definitely a nice thing to look at to say, all right, I definitely don't want to go over that exposure to any driver, although I wouldn't even be close to that because it's way too high even still in my opinion. So continue on. Kevin Harvick, K-Harv, starting 10th. This is not a play I like.
Fanduel on this play.
Fanduel play.
He's so cheap on Fanduel. He is a very consistent top 10 finisher. I already mentioned him as the prize picks play. They have him at 13.5, and he's just so good at, chilling and being perfectly content with a 10th place finish. Not really pushing it, not too desperate for a win, really. And yeah, the last time we we're at this track type, he won at Michigan.
You can accidentally lead. It's a 5%er for me. If I'm doing my play stiff strategy, I'm going to squeeze a couple of percentage points into Harvick.
He does not like dominator points on DraftKings. That's why I don't like him there. But in FanDuel, perfectly happy with this play.
Taco Bowman seems to do like 1 or 2 surprise races a season where he just finds a way to the front and leads for a big chunk. So right? It's usually when he's low owned.
So he crushed in 2020 here. He dominated the race in a major way. I don't know if you can remember that pre-COVID stretch, late 2019, early 2020. Bowman was doing that to every track. He had the best run of his entire career. Outside of that, if you look at recently at the intermediate tracks, before he inevitably went out with a concussion, wasn't able to finish the season, he was not very impressive. That Las Vegas win was he just backed into it. He had another win at a road course early on. I think it was Coda, where he just randomly backed into a win. Everyone wrecked in front of him. He was never really like a major factor in these races. That victory there, that dominating victory, I think that was more due to just like Hendrick and especially his form at the time. He was just doing that everywhere. Not really huge on this. Starting 4th just because of Daytona, managed to survive there. So I'm not really huge on this play, although he is pretty damn cheap. Again, another guy I'd say FanDuel only if you're going to play him. But
no, I'm not going to say
there was a small chance he could be a dominator type play, but I don't really see it. But he's right on that borderline of 20-1. You got to consider him in there. Like I think he's more likely to lead than like Harvick, but he's also more likely to do bad than him. And just starting 4th, he would need to do something.
He needs to lead. Basically, if you're playing Bowman, you're playing for him to find his way to first place, which starting fourth is not out of the question. If he could just kind of get there, you're playing for that, and then to lead a whole bunch, and everyone's like, "Oh man, it's Bowman! I forgot to play him," and and then you're miserable watching it, and you forgot to play Bowman. So this is if I want to cover all bases guy, you play a little bit of Bowman, couple shares, and as long as you're heavy enough on the chalk, and the chalk that you're heavy on does well, then those 4% lineups that did have Bowman, that might be 4 or 5, 6 lineups that do have Bowman in, or 1 or 2. You can accidentally win the tournament if he happens to be the guy.
He's that Kurt Busch play right now. He's like, he's what you would figure Kurt Busch would be historically. Just that guy that like a 2 or 3% chance to randomly dominate, and then he'll occasionally break slates.
If we had a practice, we can know more. But we don't.
Yeah,
no practice, no idea if he's fast. Austin Dillon, starting 28th. Now this is a pretty good play.
Look at his finishes in intermediate tracks and here, just in general, like
decent.
He crushed at this track last year.
Don't we have to ignore last year though?
No, why would we ignore next year? Last year is the sample size we have to work off of. We don't practice. What are we supposed to look at if not last year, which is the next gen car? I mean, at this race in particular, but I mean, I am looking at the people who showed exceptional speed. Like, there's a handful of guys, and Dillon was definitely one of those guys, and just only one finish worse than 13th at intermediate tracks last season. And it was that bullshit Texas race.
He's perfectly solid. He's yeoman-like.
He's so cash game safe. Like
26% owned, starting 28th. If he finishes, I will tell you this, Taco. If he finishes in this zone, 13, 12, 9, he is not going to be in the nuts lineup. I'm just telling you.
He's like a super high floor cash game play. Terrific Fanduel play.
I'm not sure I'm in love. I'm not sure.
DraftKings, his price is a little tiny bit high, but he also has like legit top 10 upside.
I think he finished
runner up last year here, and the dominant car was also an RCR car last year. So there's just a lot to like about Austin Dillon here.
He needs to finish top 7. It's not going to do it. 12th, 13th. That's not going to be enough. So this is not a guy for me that I think you absolutely need to go 100% on or go very heavy. I
think if he finishes 12th, that's probably optimal most years.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard to compare because there are these guys starting in the 30s and whatnot, and lower than him. So it depends on where they go. He's just like very safe. If you want to lower the amount of question marks you have in your lineup,
I just want to win the tournament. Bro. I just want to win. But I that's what I'm saying though. For me, I don't know. I think I didn't pull up the tool here, but 28th, let's say to 10th, that's 18 place points.
That's gonna be 50 points.
10th place gets you what? 20?
50. Oh.
Plus the 18, 40-ish, 42, 44 total with some fast laps in there.
He's pretty good at racking up some fast laps here as well.
Yeah, it's just teetering on the edge. He needs to probably finish 7th. Like, he will have to be within the top 10 to win the nuts, especially with these two guys who are coming up in a minute. So let's go through these two real quick. Keselowski starting in a weird place, 16th. Any interest here at all?
So I mean, him and Busch, I think people are going to remember that they were the standout fast guys last week at Daytona. Not that matters a whole lot here. So he's like permanently top 5 here with Penske. Last year struggled the first like 2/3 of the season at intermediate tracks, just very bad. You can see the finishes there, but they started to kind of figure it out towards the end.
But now he's
maybe a little bit of speed there, but can't be huge on this play. Starting 16th, I don't think he has any dominator upside really.
Mediocre manufacturer or decent manufacturer. How's Roush?
I mean, they make the engines. They're good. It's just like not like top tier. They're like a B tier team.
B tier team in a track.
It's just weird,
it's all about horsepower.
Last season they were like trash tier for the first like half, 2/3 of the season, and then kind of started to figure it out. So very much remains to be seen with him, but historically awesome here. But I mean, a lot of that was just because Penske.
Yeah, I think he's in a weird place. You don't want it too much. I mean, Keselowski again, he's like a GPP only, right? Like starting
like a single entry kind of guy.
Not the best vehicle compared to what he's driven in the past. There's some question marks there. Austin Cindric,
and then Cindric, he's in Penske equipment here, and he finished 12th, but didn't have like the best race last year. He's yet to show that he can like do what the other Penske guys have consistently done in these cars. And
Brady not super high on
a very big. He so far has not been very good at racking up Dominator points. We have not really seen that from him. So that's kind of the main issue that we have with Austin Cindric. And he's starting mid-pack. He's just like okay, but he's priced up to where he's just like the definition of a mid play. And I think 3 stars does that play a lot of justice. He's very mid, and I don't know if his upside is there. We really have not seen it from Cindric outside of like specialty tracks like road courses.
Guys,
kind of a wait and see.
Guys, if you're still with us, you're watching the DFS Army NASCAR breakdown for the Pala Auto Club 400, I think.
400. I think
it originally said 500 on one of them. Messed me up. Anyway, you're watching that. So if you like what you see, hit that like button, of course. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're getting notified whenever we go live with these things. But if you want these tools and you're not a part of DFS Army right now and you're watching this, we've got these breakdowns for every race, the truck races, the Xfinity races, amongst all these other things. And everybody in the chat here is going nuts, enjoying the Prize Picks. Our Prize Picks channel in the Discord is spitting plays nonstop as well. So when you're a VIP subscriber at DFS Army, you get all of that. It's all included. And if you're currently a VIP, make sure you're checking out all of these other things that we have going on right now. With the Prize Pick stuff, they're killing it. And of course, NASCAR going strong, MMA right now, this time of year, MLB around the corner. So we got a lot going on. Of course, NBA continues to crush. So make sure you check that out. DFS Army code TACO gets you 10% off. VIP at DFS Army, $69.99. We are the best value that there is for all sports in the industry by far. We crush. We're like half the price of everybody else because we build our own tools. Other sites are buying tools from other sources. We build our own. That's why you see DFS Army members winning all of these tournaments. If you watch NASCAR tournaments, it's always
we kind of
Army helmet in the top.
We dominated. Steal a lot of the NASCAR money out there.
It comes this way. So make sure you're signed up. You get access to the domination station, the projection models, all that, and these cheat sheets for every race. Listen, we're making this public today. We don't always do these open for the NASCAR stuff because it's too good to give out. So we want to let you know what we're up to, but make sure you're signed up at DFS Army because we want to give our subscribers, the value that they deserve for subscribing to DFS Army. Make sure with Benny, not just Discord, you got to be signed up so you get in the premium Discord. The regular Discord is just a little welcome message, but the premium's where all the good stuff is happening. So you got to be VIP or signed up for one of our packages like the Prize Picks package, which is $24.99 per month if you're doing that, to get access to all of the plays. All right. Now that that's out of the way, we got Taco to the meat and potatoes of this slate.
Yeah,
my boy Eric Jones
was like Jones is like 5K here last year. Qualified second, no one played him. Like, okay, that's an obvious fade. No, his car was like insane.
I remember that.
He was running like at least like third, like 90% of the race. Like he was there constantly.
Huzzah to Benihana.
He's starting 34th. Again, just like Reddick, the 2 best cars from last year starting 34th and 35th. This is just that kind of slate. 7,700. Like he's gonna be in so many lineups.
How come I never see Benny?
Really
I'm sorry.
Good chalk.
I love Eric Jones here. 44% owned, starting 34th.
And an awesome history of this track in particular too.
Yeah, there's nothing not to like here. You'd ever talk about should I go 100%? Now, some people go 100% on a driver, some people don't. It's different sensibilities, right?
So at Daytona, I mean, when everyone's got like a 30% expected carnage rate, it's a little bit riskier. This track, I mean, granted, it's going to be a little bit more uncertain than most weeks here. This is one of those tracks where typically I kind of like going the chalky plays because it's just a low carnage.
Yeah. Now let me address what
only like 2 or 3 people don't finish the race.
Let me address because we love him and play stiff is more of a DraftKings strategy. So for FanDuel, Sal's asking, this is not an all-in play on FanDuel. This is a DraftKings all-in play, right? We want the play stiff.
It's still a pretty good play on FanDuel, but yeah, on FanDuel, I mean, I'm more worried about getting exposure to some of these other guys as well. So I'm not going to have as much Jones there. I'll get a lot on FanDuel or on DraftKings because the place differential is worth twice as much there.
Yeah.
And if he finishes like 15th, that's good on DraftKings. He'll still score well. On FanDuel, that won't cut it. It's kind of the issue.
Although I would give Jones a legit shot of finishing in the top 10 here.
Oh yeah, he finishes top 10 here more often than not.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine on both sides. Chase Briscoe, another one. He was really good last year as well. he was one of the young guns coming up. Not quite, he wasn't
started off
Chastain.
terribly at intermediate tracks, but similar to RFK, they ended up kind of figuring it out towards the end of the season. Finally able to get some top fives out of there, but they were just allergic to even like top 15 finishes the first like half of the season, including this race where he finished 16th. A lot of it due to just the carnage of all the guys above him. Like he had like 10 quality cars wreck out so that he could finish 16th. Not a good showing by any means. But yeah, starting 31st. I mean, this range right here is very similar to some of the plays we saw in Xfinity, where there's like one clear awesome play like a Hemrick or something, and he would just be like the Creed that's like the alternate version, the not as good version of the super chalk Eric Jones. You see that, and also Reddick and Byron. He's kind of the Byron to Eric Jones's Reddick.
Or you just play them both and say YOLO, right? Like Chase Briscoe at 7,500 has a much better chance of being the nuts if he gets a top 12.
Yeah, you're going to want to get to him over a guy in like the 6K. That jump is significantly more worth it than like the jump from, say, like Byron to Elliott, or just like a 9K guy to a 10K guy. There's just more value to be had there. Because after these plays, the plays kind of fall off a cliff a little bit, and towards the bottom in the punt range, where usually we can find some plays, there's basically nothing.
Yeah, it gets really interesting, I think, from here. So we've got a trio after Chase Briscoe, D Swizz, Stenhouse, and Chris Buescher that I think are all fadeable. Maybe Suarez can hang around.
Bro, I'm scared as a motherfucker that Stenhouse like leads early. I mean, I really don't. It's like a 1% thing. You can see this implied win percentage, 1%. Implied top 5%, 9%.
He takes it and hangs around all race, and it's like,
I that is not out of the possibility, but at the same time, he would have to dominate significantly starting second, and I think I'm pretty safe to just fade that.
He would not only need to dominate, he pretty much
worried
needs
about
to be
these
there.
Guys, really. They're gonna have no ownership.
Tough, big ask with some big drivers on this track, and it would have been nice to see practice. And oh my God, this guy's fast, and then we would have, if Suarez was flying in practice, we could be like, you know what, let's take a little shot with him. He's in a great car, though, Suarez. Can't take that away. I think for this group, for me, Suarez is the best of them. What do you think?
Yeah, he had a top 5 finisher last year, just kind of surviving, staying out of trouble. Not like the best run overall. Stenhouse, the thing that is even moderately like makes you think about him is that he has a win in the book already. He's locked in the playoffs. He can take gambles that nobody else in the field can take.
Yeah, he can't make his car drive faster though. And JTG, his team is just not the same as these other ones.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue I'm having here is he can get just kind of ran around.
And I don't think so. So
top 5 is pretty much out of the equation here. So I mean, he would have to lead early or something, and then just like randomly win off like some bullshit like pit strategy or something crazy. But I think we're pretty safe to fade this. He's 50-1, but usually is about 80-1 in the spot, 100-1. He's just kind of priced up because he's fresh off the win.
Buescher even worse at 81-1 starting up front. That is a no bueno for me. Again, you can play them to their implied win percentage, which is 1%.
He's bad at this track type and just bad at this track. Like last year, his best finish at intermediate tracks was 13th.
Yeah. Yikes. By the way, if you're in like a smaller contest, like 100 or 200 people, those where that's what you should be attacking in my mind for this race. And I think play one dominator that you're guessing, and then just play these play stiff guys and just guess the right dominator, and you're probably going to win like a 100-300 person contest. Rather than
those contests, you do not have to get cute with any of these types of plays whatsoever. This is like if you want to just randomly win in a unique way, and like
this is what I'm saying.
Or some bullshit.
Let me, we talk a lot about like, how do I beat the 35,000 other lineups in the giant contest? People are like, well, you're throwing a lot of names out there, and you need a little bit of exposure to everybody because, hey, I'm trying to beat 32,000 people. Everybody sees that Eric Jones is starting the back. Like, it's not hard to know to play him, but oh shit, no one thought to play like, Bowman, and he ends up leading, and it's like, oh, I won the race.
Yeah, it's about knowing which of those plays are possible and viable. Like Bowman, possible and viable. As where you get to
that's in the largest.
Some plays are so cute that they're absolutely ridiculous. Like
but that's really in the largest tournaments. In a small tournament, no one's playing. No one's going to have it. Like these guys will be 0%. No one's going to have Suarez or Stenhouse. You don't need to bother with those kind of guys. So even if like Suarez randomly leads, probably not going to hurt you because no one has them. Or if that one person has them, probably doesn't have the right mix of the other drivers. So obviously contest type is really, really important here. And you want to go on these high-owned players in sort of the smallest contests where you want to get a little different with ownership as the contest size gets
and then
larger.
Single entry, you kind of want to avoid the most chalky of chalk because everyone throws their cash play lineups into that.
Single entry, yes, that's right as well. But single entry size-wise, right? Difference between a single entry with 5,000 entrants and a single entry with 50 entrants. You could get really chalky when it comes to a 50 person and just find that one differentiator between you and the rest of the group. My boy Ryan Killapriest changed teams this year.
Get called up.
Racing.
Told Custer to suck it and go to Xfinity.
Fuck Custer.
He's here. And he's basically just Chase Briscoe in this spot, starting a few spots higher up.
Less owned.
Yeah. The ownership's not going to be quite as crazy. Save some money, which is important because we like a lot of the expensive plays here. So I think he's going to be an important play to have in rotation. Very, very similar to Austin Dillon for over $1,000 cheaper. Riskier play, of course, more of a GPP play, not really a cash game play, but 50 to 1 odds, pretty good, right in line with his teammates there.
You're getting, he's the same 50 to 1, that Keselowski is, Suarez who's starting up front. Here
better equipment than those finishes with JTG Motorsports, would show the 30th and 23rd.
I like it. Let's see what Brady says about Killapriest. Hold on. 3.5. Secret is out. Priest. So I think his ownership will be a little high. Good chance he finds the optimal. Okay. Good enough for me. I like Priest. I like him in the mix with all of these play stiff guys. He's my boy. I've been a fan of Killapriest since he was driving for crapola teams. Always that shitter that got more out of his equipment than other shitters did, and now he's in a decent car. So give me some Priest. For me, Priest is one of these candidates for a guy that is priced at like 8K later in the season. Like that could happen.
The only thing I could say against him
is that he prefers
smaller tracks than larger tracks, but I think he'll still be fine. And I think he could push 8K, especially at like a Martinsville or something. I think that's not out of the equation at all. He is like, he could be priced higher than Briscoe on a consistent basis relatively soon, I think.
Could he be a guy that's priced in the 8K range?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he can get there.
He could get up there with Harvick, honestly, on his team. He's kind of the future of that team as it stands right now, him and Briscoe, and I think he's better than Briscoe. Priest could find the optimal. Briscoe's like 9K at one point last season.
Yeah, no, he could get there. All right, so he's starting 27th. I think he's just as good of a play as like Briscoe and these other guys.
The pivot is his teammate Almirola here. Same odds, starting a bit higher, but great history here. Very clean racer. Again, Fanduel play here. Another guy like Fanduel play.
Yeah, the Fanduel plays are the guys with a little less place differential, and Almirola is that guy. Good history.
The wheels fell off the intermediate track finishes with him towards the end of the last season.
Almirola here. I think Almirola. I'm shocked at this 18% ownership again. I think it's high. I don't think it's going to be there.
Yeah, not really. Yeah. Usually I'm not too huge on playing like track history guys, but here just because of circumstances, no practice, no qualifying, and really not many similar track types to look at. Like he wrecked out of Michigan, so you can't really take much from that. Just with the lack of data to go off of, you kind of have to look at track history a little more than you would your standard everyday week. So that's kind of why I'm looking at Almirola here, because he is very consistently putting up solid finishes. And at 6'5", we're kind of getting to the point where these are the final remaining decent plays. A lot of these plays are going to be just pragmatic plays that you're forced to put in there because the alternatives just don't look as good.
Well, there's a couple that I kind of like. So let me get to those.
Yeah.
Unfriend you, AJ Allmendinger starting 6th. That's a no bueno for me. Noah Gragson starting 20th. Super low ownership. Is Gragson even viable?
Is awesome at this track type in Xfinity, of course. Making the jump up to
I don't know.
Cup, but he has plenty of experience.
I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter, Taco. Fuck that experience. I played some iRacing.
What do you know about it? Come on.
I know, man. I raced. Everybody can drive. Everybody can drive this track.
He has experience just from replacing drivers last year. He raced a good amount of the Cup series last year, filling in for Bowman and stuff.
I don't know. Let's see what
like,
Brady has to. Oh,
yeah.
this is sneaky play. If Gregson gets the hang of these cars, I think he's good at this track type. But what's Legacy? What the hell is Legacy? What is
this is what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, so he is on Legacy, which was Petty Motorsports last year, which had the best car in this race last year. Herrick Jones, same team, and Gregson was absurdly fucking good last season. Xfinity he showed that he was absolutely ready for the move up to the Cup Series, and it's a bit early on, but it's not like he's completely green because he raced a lot of last season in shittier equipment and did pretty consistently well. Didn't show a lot of like errors and stuff that you'd expect to see out of rookies. So that's kind of why the Gregson play here is pretty decent. Starting in 20th, he's not going to be high owned really whatsoever. His ownership's going to probably be in the lower teens. But yeah, there's definitely a case to be made for playing this guy here. And I think he's going to be a good pivot off of some of the baity sort of plays that we're going to get into over the next few picks. I think him and Gibbs, I think it's just worth playing these guys over like the like McDowell's and even Ty Dillon's of the world. That's
well, this is the unfriend.
I want to attack this bottom part of the slate here.
There's only one guy here that stands out to me. So Ty Gibbs is another one. Listen, Ty Gibbs got a good car.
Yep, and he kind of nailed it there with the description. Same play as Gregson, but his ownership will be significantly higher. And he's younger than Gregson. He's basically as green as Gregson is. They have about the same amount of experience. He's in better equipment though. But yeah, Gregson and Gibbs. Gregson's just the lower owned sort of pivot off of Gibbs here. And I think this is about as low as I want to go this week. Maybe some Haley, because I don't think a lot of the guys in the 5Ks are worth playing. But I think a lot of people will try to play them.
That's where I was going to get to. After Haley, I think I'm done. Maybe Ty Dillon here, but Justin Haley's actually a good driver.
He's just like cash game. You kind of put him in as the last guy. He had a couple random top 5 finishes at like Texas and Kansas, but those are the more carnage-filled races. Not really what you'd expect out of him here. This race here. Probably feeling like a 18th place finish for him here, which is fine.
How much better is Killer Priest than Haley?
A lot better.
All right, so there you go. I mean,
if
the
you
Haley
compared to 101, I wouldn't say twice as good, but I mean, he's up there. He's just you're playing him because you need to be able to afford guys up top. This is why you're playing like a Haley this week. Now, Haley starting 29th, I would like most weeks. This week, I like that a bit less than a typical week.
There it is. So after this, this is the unfriend you zone. Ty Dillon is starting 36 though, Taco. But
I don't care because he's in shit equipment, and this is just not really the spot. I don't think. I think this is gonna bait a lot of people into playing him. I don't think he's gonna really score all that well. Like I don't see him being a top 25 car here.
Dillon
has a history of doing that, but he's in worse equipment now.
Dillon doesn't finish on the lead lap. That's what's going to happen. He's going to be laps behind. Let me tell you guys something.
Maybe like a lap because it's a 2 mile, but
they'll get lapped. These guys are going to get lapped. This
whole shit takes a little bit longer, and there's more expected cautions. But yeah, probably a lap or 2 down.
These guys are going to be laps behind, and you're dead. You cannot win if your driver's a lap behind. Not in a race like this. Not in a track like this. Not with all this place differential available. Not with a lack of a need to spend all this money on studs.
Yeah, 500 to 1 odds. I mean, compare that to like an average Ty Dillon line. It's kind of what this isn't even like disrespectful. It's kind of just like right.
It's no good. It's no good. My suggestion here is
I think more people would be baited into McDowell though.
McDowell because he finishes well on fucking Daytona.
Yeah, he's good at every other type of track. This track is not it for him.
Yeah.
So starting 26, a lot of people will be very tempted to put in McDowell because they see him as a much higher driver than he is because of like Daytona. And
I'm avoiding all of this talk.
Shorter tracks. Yeah.
Listen, I'm not telling anybody what to do. I don't tell anybody what to do ever. Everybody do your thing. Because I'm usually wrong about something like this. I'm always like shitting on a driver that ends up getting there. Like I'm shitting on Buescher and then he like leads from 5th place in the whole lap. So do what you want. But for me, I think I'm out on this. I think I'm out on this zone. I'm not fucking with Ty Dillon. It's too much of a suck you in at 18%. This guy's going to finish 24th and he's not going to be in the nuts. So I don't need it. I don't think that this type of driver is going to get there. I do think Ty Gibbs has a shot because he's in
great equipment.
Yeah, he's in a real car that could be as fast as anybody else's on a track that's easy to drive. So if he's got a good engine, if he's got good horsepower, I think he can get there. But I don't know that Justin Haley can do that. I think it's Gibbs and maybe a little bit of Gragson. I think Gibbs is probably a little better because Legacy is fine, but JGR is a real team. Putting out, like here are the other JGR guys. They're 9K, 10.6. And the only reason for me that Gibbs is this cheap is because he's a kid. And you know what?
He's a child, but at a low carnage track, that's kind of where you want to play him. The danger isn't really that dangerous this week.
That's ageist, Taco. It's ageist.
It's
discrimination based on age.
Sports do tend to be ageist. Like it's an ageist establishment. I don't think there's any escape in that. I don't think any 80-year-old is going to be signed by an NBA team, as ageist as that sounds. That's just life.
It's unacceptable. What about me? If I try to get a job, they're like, oh. Well,
my daughter, she tries to get a job, and they're ageist. They say no.
Mid-40s? He's old. I don't want that. So it's ageist, man. It's unacceptable. I did put out a video, Nico, breaking down the Jake Paul fight. A little discussion of it, where to bet it, what types of things, right here on the DFS Army YouTube channel. Check it out. Subscribe, like. You should have seen that video already, and then you'd know where to bet it. I did a whole video on it. Not going to rehash it now. But it's right here on the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm not going to rehash. No rehash. Taco, that's going to do it for this breakdown. Unfriend all these turds, guys. It's not hard. No. Even Gilliland? Yep. No.
We'll say though, if you're playing me in a head-to-head, actually, if you want to beat me, I can guarantee you win if you play Cody Ware. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
If you play Cody Ware,
no, only head-to-heads.
Only head-to-heads against Taco.
Yes, sir.
Taco, stop trying to.
That's the secret sauce I'm giving out.
Skewing it. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this breakdown. I'm trying to think if we forgot anything. I don't think so. So here's the deal. Play stiff guys, mixed it, low carnage race, play stiff guys, and then you damn well better figure out who that dominator is going to be and play him in your lineups. Yep. Do not leave 4K on the table. Don't leave salary.
This ain't the week for that. Last week you could leave 20K on the table. No problem.
So
we're desperate for salary. We're spending 4,900 at least.
Change your brain from what you did last week.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, go back to this, right?
You're always going to be a week behind if you do that strategy in NASCAR.
This page on the research station is very, very important. Okay? This is the page that's telling you that the better drivers score more points here. It's very, very simple. The better drivers are priced higher and they score more points on this track, meaning you do not want to be leaving salary on the table. I would say max of 3 to 4, 500. 500.
Yeah, something like that.
That's it. I usually like, by the way, Taco, I will tell you this, Taco. I usually, when I'm handcrafting, I usually do try to leave 100 or 200 over because I hate spending exactly 5K. I always feel like, what are the chances?
You don't want to exactly split 5K the pot with all of your best friends, all 30 of them.
Yeah, we are. So do not leave salary on the table. Don't do that. Spend it all. Get good drivers. Don't play turds. Shitters are going to be laps behind on this, and expect a NASCAR type of race where somebody's in the lead and they hold it for like a long time.
Yep.
And you're just like, oh, he's still in the lead. And then you look at your lineups, you're like, oh, okay, I played 5% or I played 10%. You're feeling good or you're feeling bad. And then you're in DFS Army Discord and Brady's like, dude, Kyle Busch, he's flying. Just bet him live bet it. He's going to win this. And then we're like,
if they'll even let you this week. I think the books will be kind of timid about that. They're not even giving us top 10, so I'm looking like
I don't know what the books are going to do, Taco. I don't know. Probably not. It's always hard to get live bets in. For me, I'm in New York, and I feel like DraftKings in New York and
Fanduel live in Canada
have the worst offer. I need to go to Canada. It's cold up there, though. It's freezing. I'm not going to freeze my ass. I'm trying to go to Florida. Fuck Canada. No, I love Canada. My cousins to the north. We love it.
It's gonna start snowing there next.
Yeah, it's just cold.
The second you go.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it, guys. How much time till race start here?
Oh, yeah, about 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
3 hours to make lineups. You have your orders. The Chrome still has spots left. The 15 still has spots left. So there's still plenty of action. And of course, Fanduel, I think with Fanduel, you could just trust the projections pretty much. I might just
just use FanDuel to cross site hedge, which is always going to be a plus EV move if you play on both sites. Because being underweight, like there are a lot of guys that are going to be underweight on DraftKings, but overweight on a FanDuel, and it's going to kind of create like a mini arbitrage.
FanDuel has a nickel game.
To get value out of them.
If you guys would just want to have some fun, oh wait, it's about to fill. It's full. All right, forget. I was just going to talk about a nickel game. So it's full. No more nickel game. But they do have a quarter.
Yeah, it's nice little thing to dick around in.
Hold on, is this a 150? Hold on, let me see here. Hold on, reserve. 150. Okay, they do it. Just reserve 150. How much is $37? You can literally for $37.50 put 150 lineups in.
Just go ham
on FanDuel and get silly with it. You don't even have to worry about it. Just slap them in there. Benihana, the Gibbs can win this race. He's got a great car.
Week to week, we're kind of concerned about him because he's like 18 years old and pretty green. But at a low carnage track, this is probably a spot where you're going to want to go in on.
We are not agents here. We are not. We are a merit-based. We are a meritocracy.
I don't even think it's based on his age. It's just he's proven to be someone to make a lot of mistakes. But here, that factor is pretty limited.
Yeah, but you're dealing with the least mistakey kind of track in like. Let's do that for him on tracks where it's like.
It's like Martinsville or something. Yeah,
like it was like Martinsville. It's a half a lap. You make one little. You got
friends,
and you're down 5 laps. But, here, you can't even go down a lap here unless your car is complete ass.
Yep.
Like those guys will go down laps because their car is complete shit. But like Ty Gibbs says, he's his daddy is the king of NASCAR.
And a little of football.
And football.
He's a Renaissance man.
Gibbs. His dad is Joe. Is that his grandfather? Joe Gibbs is old as shit. How the hell? Yeah. That's got to be his grandfather.
Yeah.
Or he's still spitting out kids because he's a fucking stud. If 80-year-old, if like 75-year-old Joe Gibbs was still having kids, respect. Anyway, that'd be awesome. Like you see his wife, she's like 25. That's what you do when you're rich. All right. That's going to do it for this one. Good luck, guys. Let's kick ass on this track. I got to remember that I just reserved some lineups.
Helmets up top. Let's go.
Helmets up, baby. Good luck today.